Hi, I'm Rod. Welcome to my channel. Today I am listening to the Polkas and they will be performing Do You Remember Rock and Roll Radio? This is a cover of the Ramones song. So here we go.
This is Radio 2DB in Dubbo. Stay tuned for more rock and roll.
So that was the Polkas with Do You Remember Rock and Roll Radio? That's a great cover. It's a great song. For me, the Polkas are one of the best bands to come out of Newcastle, or at least one of my favourites. They're a band I've seen numerous times. They're a good fun band to see, and have been for decades. This again, they've made this around. The Polkas are a ska punk band, so they bring that ska element to it. There's elements of ska, punk, rock and roll, which makes it a bit different from the original Ramones song, which is a great song. I like both of them. As far as the lyrics of the song itself, it's criticising mainstream rock music and the radio, um, and how nostalgic the radio was. I suspect it still is. I don't know, I haven't listened to radio in decades, but I doubt much has changed. The song kind of celebrates the Ramones' teenage, I guess, idols or memories with John Lennon and Jerry Lewis, T-Rex, but also criticises the trend of radio stations being nostalgic and playing music from the past rather than current music. Which we see a lot of this kind of nostalgia with things like YouTube and social media now. All these people looking back to whether it was the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s when they were teens and thinking times were so much better then, and if we could only go back. But I don't buy into that. I don't necessarily keep up with all the music of today, but I think the kids should be making music for themselves, not for us, first off. And I think if they're kind of pissing us off, we start yelling at clouds and going, oh, kids today and their music, maybe they're on the right track. Because like in the lyrics said that music needs to change. If music just sounded like it did in the 70s, the 80s or the 90s, we wouldn't be looking back at it fondly, we'd be looking back at it and going, oh, more of the same. So I don't think we necessarily have to like what the kids are making, but to carry on and start yelling at clouds is a bit ridiculous. But anyway, it's quite popular on YouTube. There's so many channels, very popular channels, that's all they do. But read about them. The Polkas are an Australian ska punk band from Newcastle, New South Wales, Australia, formed in 1987 as the Pork Hunts. The band was eventually forced to change its name to a less offensive sounding The Porkers in 1990. When I first seen them, they were the Pork Hunts. Back in my late teens, in the late 80s. After their regular Newcastle venue refused to present them under their old name. Because of this, their first release was the 1990 EP titled Tired of Being Pork Cunts, which reached number 6 on the Australian independent charts. Yes, there were a few stories going around at the time. Some were that the manager, hear it saying that it was the venue. There were stories going around that the manager suggested to others that the record label, if they wanted a record deal, they had to change their name. Do you remember Rock and Roll Radio was the B-side to their 1998 single Perfect Teeth? It was written by Dee Dee Ramone, Johnny Ramone and Joey Ramone, and was originally recorded by Ramones. So I really enjoyed that. I thought that was a great cover. It's a great song. I like both the versions a lot. For me, it would be one of my favourite Ramones songs, I think. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did and you would like to support the channel, the best way to do that is by liking, subscribing and commenting. It all helps, and I hope to see you on another video soon. Thanks for watching.